time is up.
Is that it? No more, right? No more questions?
So are you okay?
Oh, it's yours. I'm going to put it right here. Forget it. Oh, I won't. All right, we're going to start.
Are you okay? You need anything?
No, I'm okay.
All right, you look okay.
I'm trying to get 7 o'clock. Hello? Good evening, all, and thank you for coming. I'm going to give a minute for everybody to kind of settle down. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for the people that are at home joining us tonight for a candidates' night. At this time, I would like to say I'm Gigi Grandy from the former League of Women Voters, and I would ask everybody in the audience to please silence their phone if you're while you're in the hall. That would be appreciative. Thank you. It's an amazing turnout for the third candidates' night, hosted by the former League of Women Voters since our new form of government. The League disbanded about 15 years ago after initiating the new form of government along with the Community Preservation Act. There are a few of us who are still left who feel much obligated to present the candidates' night for the democratic process. At this time, I would like to acknowledge our legislators. If they are in the audience, please wave. Mark Cusack, State Representative, Walter Timothy, State Senator, and John Keenan, State Senator. Thank you if you are here joining us, and thank you for your service also. Because this event happens with a lot of help, I would like to thank BCAM, Wes Ray, Bill Needham, and Jerry Cormack for their services also. The volunteers are Laura Copeless and Kara Waldron, who are timekeepers, Sandra Jeff Kuntz, Don Whitney, Hugh Wynn, Tricia McClokin, and Jim Casey from the clerk's office, and all the staff who helped make arrangements, along with our janitors, Dave, Jim, and Bruce, who helped me set up the hall. Thank you. Tonight, we are pleased to have two moderators, Shayla Montpleur, Esquire, a resident of Braintree, who will moderate the mayoral debate, and Max Falposh, who is a resident also of Braintree, who will be moderating the school committee and the council candidates for District 6 and 4. There are question cards at the entrance for questions for the candidates, and if your question is not selected, we will pass it on to the candidates, so please put contact information on there, and we will be giving it to the candidates, and they can hopefully get back to you on the answers of the questions. Tonight's presented questions were formulated from interviews with residents from Braintree. Now, I would like to acknowledge the candidates who are unopposed, and I'm going to ask them to stand and remain standing, and the audience to give an appreciation of their service as a group. Councilors at large, Shannon Hume, Charles Ryan, David Ringus Jr., who are all incumbents. Councilors, District 1, Julia Flaherty. District 2, Joseph Reynolds. District 3, Elizabeth Maglio. District 4, Meredith Bolrick, who are all incumbents. And District 4, Anne Mary Quilty, who is a new candidate who is unopposed. Belt, Anthony Agnetti. Housing Authority, Matthew Sterling, Marta Guggens. And the library trustees, Laura Copeless, John Pellos, Patricia Pilgrim, Ann Tolan, and Christian Dan Verderslice. Thank you so much for all your service. I would like to also take a minute to thank District 6, Councilor Macon, and District 4, Councilor O'Brien, and the school committee, Kelly Cobb Lemur, and Thomas Devon, and Carla Saros, for their service also. Thank you very much. Great. So the Braintree candidates format for tonight, the school committee will be unopposed with 1 question, 2 minutes for response, and 1 minute for closing. District 6 councilors, 3 questions, 2 minutes for each question for response, and 1 minute closing remark from each candidate. District 4 councilor, unopposed, 1 question, 2 minute response, and 1 minute closing. The mayoral candidates will have 8 questions with 2 minutes for each question for response, and a 30-second rebuttal from each candidate with a 1 minute closing remark from each candidate. By a drawing, the option of presentation was by Mayor Kokoris, who chose to be second in the first question and second as far as the closing remark. Residents and audience questions will be as time allots. Thank you. I will ask the candidates to kindly watch for the timekeepers. You will get a warning before the time is up. So at this time, now I would like to ask the 3 candidates for the school committee to come up: Joseph Fogarty, Rachel Horek, and Justin Rollo. And I would like to ask Max to come forward, who is the moderator for the candidates for the school committee and the councilors for District 6 and 4.
Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you for everyone coming out this evening, and thank you for everyone watching online as well, and thank you, school committee nominees as well. So as Jeannie said, we're just going to do 1 question. There's a 2-minute response to that question, and at the end of that 2 minutes, please also do your 1-minute closing. So the first question for Joseph Fogarty, please explain, I'm sorry. Okay. Please explain the role of a school committee member and how do you qualify for this role?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here tonight. I just want to start by introducing myself. My name is Joe Fogarty. I'm running for Braintree School Committee. I was a teacher for about 10 years at a public high school in Massachusetts. Currently work as a lawyer at a law firm in Boston in civil litigation. I have 2 children. I have a child in the Braintree school system, one of the elementary schools. The role of the school committee is to essentially review and approve policies and budgets that are set forth by the school district. And there's a few areas where I think that I would be able to make a contribution as a member of the school committee. I've done my own research into issues facing the Braintree schools and talked to a lot of residents. Braintree historically spends less per pupil than most other communities in Massachusetts. Historically, the teacher's average salary is lower than comparable schools in the area. And there's been talk of cuts in staffing, is my understanding. And there's been a noticeable decline in assessment scores over the past several years. And there's also just been anecdotal reports of issues that students are facing involving increased stress and mental health and stuff as a result of COVID. And I think that the town needs to spend more money on the schools, improve funding. A lot of people complain about the infrastructure. There's been well-known issues with infrastructure, and there needs to be a strategic plan, and that starts with the facilities assessment. Safety is also an issue. Around the country has been issues with student safety. A lot of it doesn't necessarily get reported to the public, and safety issues. And I think that would be a focus of mine as a member of the school committee. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Same question. Please explain the role of a school committee member and how do you qualify for this role?
Right. First of all, school committee member, okay? That's really important to notice that you work as a team of 7. So I'm a great team worker. The three big areas of school committee: policies, budget, and evaluate and hire the superintendent. Next year, 2024, all those 3 things are going to be at the forefront for the school committee. 1, the superintendent has estimated that he's going to need $8 to $9 million extra dollars for the school's budget. Where's that going to come from, right? Number 2, policies. We need to continually think about our students' mental health. This year, we saw that the MCAS scores for the district had a growing number of students not meeting expectations. That's a problem. We need to think about what's driving that. Are there groups of students that aren't meeting that? We need to find out new policies for that. Third, the superintendent. The superintendent is currently starting evaluation. It's going to be going through next June. And we know that the superintendent's contract will end in middle of 2025. So not only will we be evaluating the superintendent, we also have to start thinking about what do we want for our superintendent next. We possibly might want to do a national search. So I'm Rachel Horak. I'm a mother of 3 children, all at the Flaherty School. And I'm really excited to be running for school committee to help solve these problems. My educational background is that I have a PhD in biology. And as my background in my professional career, I do professional development for college biology professors. So I think every day about how policy should be shaped at the international level for microbiology in college. And I'd like to bring that experience to help improve the school committee for the town of Braintree.
Better not be a different question.
Here comes the curveball. No, same question. Please explain the role of a school committee member and how do you qualify for this role?
All right, so my name's Justin Rollo. This is going to be a little repetitive because I'm echoing the sentiments of the 2 folks before me, but the main role of school committee: hiring a superintendent, implementing and strategizing about policy, and then obviously going over the school budget. To me, I think the superintendent's the most important piece of that, and retaining a superintendent, hiring a superintendent, evaluating a superintendent, because it trickles down from the top in terms of that has the most impact, I think, on our children in the classroom every single day. Another priority for me, I think Joe had mentioned it, was a buildings assessment, and having that come to fruition, whether that is the facilities department or a third-party consultant, to actually go through these buildings and find out what the status of all of the components of our buildings are, what the expected life of those are, and then creating a long-term plan. The current mayor had said something in the first debate that was a little shocking to me, which was basically they're busy putting out fires now, and then they're going to create a plan for the future, and that's not the way that we should be running our school department and our buildings. We should be doing a full analysis and planning for the future and coming up with a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan to either replace or renovate these buildings and be making the most efficient decisions we can with the limited funds we have. So if we know that a building's going to be taken offline in 5 years, let's not replace the heating system in it. If we know we're going to have it for 15 years, maybe we're going to replace the heating system earlier. So let's get a long-term plan together so we can make efficient decisions for our school buildings. That's one of the things I'd like to kind of push forward on the school committee. That is all. Thank you.
I just want to thank all three candidates for addressing those questions. And hold on one moment. And so this next portion, we're going to do the counselor for District 6. So the format of this, it'll be 2 minutes for each question. And then at the end of everyone answer the question, they'll have a 1-minute closing statement. So this will be for Mark Doucette and Peter Morin. Thank you. Yeah, a round of applause, please. Okay, so the first question for Mark Doucette. Why do you believe that you are the better candidate to represent the people of District 6?
First of all, thank you all for having me. Thank you out there in BCAM land. And I want to say hi to Braintree High because I think they'll be watching this on Friday. So, hey, Braintree High. Why do I think I'm the best candidate for the role is in my 30 years of business, I've been running business units from East to West Coast, Europe, Japan, and a lot of those have to do with municipalities. And all the municipalities that I've dealt with have to look within to find the resources to pay for the $6 or $8 million of school needs next year. I believe that I have the experience to get in, take a wide look at our enterprise resource planning, from capital budgets on down, and from anything to do with roads, schools, hospitals, all the things in Braintree. And also, I've been in District 6 for a long while, 18 years. I think that I like the community feel, but in order to be part of the entire town of Braintree, we have to make sure that we take care of our schools and infrastructure now and 50 years from now. It's not a 3 to a 5-year look. It's a long-term look, and I think I've done that before, and I can do it for District 6, the council, and Braintree. Thank you.
Peter Morin, I'm sorry. Peter Morin, same question. Why do you believe that you are the better candidate to represent the people of District 6?
I'm going to leave it up to the voters of District 6 to decide whether I'm the better candidate or not. What I offer is I've lived in this district since 1964. I went to the Highland School, I went to South Middle School, I went to Braintree High School. I served on the Board of Selectmen in the 1990s. I served as an assessor from 2000 to 2012. I chaired the Charter Review Committee for the town of Braintree. I was Chief of Staff to the Mayor, Chief of Staff and Operations to the Mayor. For the last 8 years, I've been a town administrator in the town of Norwell. Okay. I have experience in dealing with budget issues. I've closed budget gaps before, both here, when we came into office, we faced a budget gap. When I started, we had about $1 million in reserves. When I left, we had 14. When I started in Norwell, we had 1.5 million in reserves. We had 5.3 when I left. I did it without raising overrides or any gimmicks. We did it through operational frugality and through conservative revenue measurements. We need capital planning here. We need to fix our elementary schools. We need to provide tax relief to seniors. We also need to fix our budget. These are things I've done both here in Braintree and I've done for the town of Norwell as well. For the last 15 years, I've been paid to fix government problems. I'd like to do it for Braintree for free.
Okay, second question for Mark Doucette. District 6 has the town forest and the land near the Highlands playground. How would you protect these pieces of land?
So I've done some research on what successful towns really consider important to them, and almost all of them say open space, and almost all of them say they want more of it. And our master plan that we have now, they did a survey for residents, and I forget the number off the top of my head, but it was very high about the number of residents who say that they want to keep the open space and more of it. So what would I do? As councilor, I would obviously meet with my group to make sure that what our open space is, take some inventory, and as a councilor, I would use my vote to maintain the town's, the people of District 6 wishes, and myself personally, my wishes. I think keeping District 6 as a real whole community would be it's very important to me, but not only to me, our decisions really have to be considered long-term. You know, a lot of things that we've done in the past were good for the town then, but we kicked the can a little bit for the next generation. I don't want to do that. I want them to move in to, you know, Angela Road like I did and have the same opportunities for a beautiful community. And I would use my vote to make sure that happens.
Peter Moran, same question. District 6 has the town forest and the land near the Highlands playground. How would you protect these pieces of land?
Well, from 7th grade to 8th grade, I cut through the town forest to go to South Middle. We cut through Marissa Drive. We can't do that anymore. I walked the town forest from Wildwood to Peach Street frequently with my wife and our dog. People go in and volunteer and clean those trails. They do a great job. We had a part-time forester who helped out with that, and I think that's a good step if we can find a way to fund that. As far as the Highlands playground, I grew up on that playground. I got a lot of holes in my jeans when I went to school there. It's turfed now. It's never looked better. It's really a tribute to the parents who really put a lot of time and effort into getting that fixed up. As a counselor, I'll make sure that it continues to be funded. The tennis courts have been converted into street hockey. They're revitalized for that as well. It's a vibrant area now. I walked Wildwood yesterday to knock and meet with voters, and the crowd behind that playground, in that playground, is amazing. My son worked there as a park department summer helper, and the amount of kids that would go there in the summer was amazing as well. They'd spend from 8 to 2 there every day in the summer. And like my kid was a cult figure after that summer, where everyone would come up and say, "Are you Sean's dad?" And so I still tease him about it. But it's a great resource, and it's one that I enjoyed as a child, and I hope that generations to come can enjoy the Highlands and the town forest.
Okay, next question for Mark Doucette. What are 2 priorities of concern by the residents for District 6 that are distinct from the rest of the town, and how would these be pursued?
So as far as what's, can you repeat the question?
So what are 2 priorities of concern by the residents of District 6 that are distinct from the rest of the town, and how would these be pursued?
Well, I guess I'm not sure exactly what District 6 is mainly concerned with in our own district. I mean, I think what I hear in the district really is concerns about the town itself. District 6, in and of itself, is a community within the community, and I think they're really concerned with what goes on around them and maintaining, 40B projects and the like, keeping them out. I'm really not for building over Braintree. I wouldn't vote for the ZOM project because I wouldn't want it in my neighborhood, neither would they. And I think that's their concerns. Again, keeping the space, maintaining our schools, budgets. I think it's important that I would take an enterprise-wide look at everything we're doing and make sure that we get the dollar cost. If we put a penny into something, we get the right amount back. And I think they're concerned about making sure we have the right budgets for this generation and the next, and that's what I would help them pursue.
Peter Moran, same question. What are 2 priorities of concern by the residents for District 6 that are distinct from the rest of the town, and how would these be pursued?
Thank you. I think if you're looking for something unique about District 6 is we're kind of ringed around by heavily trafficked roads. We're surrounded by Route 37 on one side, Peach Street on the other, Liberty on the other. And so that's a big circle. And if you drive that during rush hours, you know how hard a left turn can be, wherever you're coming out from. Particularly, what's going on right now is we're hit by construction, and this is probably unique to our district. We're hit hard by construction on roads right now. The other day, there was a big project going on Liberty Street. The road was blocked. They were pushing people onto Peach Street, and then you were forced to go around and go up Route 37, where a gas main was being repaired at the same time. So there was no coordination between the utilities and the contractors in getting these repairs done in a way that wouldn't interfere with traffic, never mind with picking up your kid after school. That was just not done well. If I'm a counselor, I'll make sure that those things are addressed. Things that are unique that I'm finding out about going door to door, the woman on Kane Ave whose husband tripped on an unmaintained construction site and had a severe injury. The guy on Gray Terrace who's tried to get his sidewalk fixed for years and hasn't been successful in getting it fixed. The seniors in all the neighborhoods who really need some tax relief, like we did in Norwell, to get some more tax relief so that they can afford to take the hit that inflation has given them, or to have the option to move into senior housing. We need to build more senior and veteran housing in Braintree. That will solve our 40B problem and help our own residents at the same time. Thank you.
Okay, now this is the time for the 1-minute closing. Mark Doucette.
I'm glad I got to go first. I would say that I want to thank everyone here and also the residents that sought me and wished me luck. It's been very encouraging. It's my foray into government. I don't consider this a political role. I'm taking on a role to help govern the town of Braintree. I like the format. I think this format will help us understand what the candidates are made of. I think it'll help you understand where they're coming from. I've spent 41 years in this town, and it's unique. It really is. I mean, I was offered a job in another location, and it's almost impossible to find what we have here. That's my only goal to become a councilor in Braintree, is to make sure that my daughter's children have the same opportunity that my kids have. And I think we're at a precipice where we really need to evaluate and think about what we're doing. I have a philosophy for what I'll be doing. It's called Real, Rich, and Right. Is it real? Does it make sense for the town? Thank you. Mark said thank you.
Peter Moran, 1-minute closing.
Thank you. I want to congratulate Mark for getting involved. I want to thank you for all attending tonight. Participation is vital to communities. If you don't participate, you can't make a change, okay? This town has been a part of me for my entire life. It's been great to me and for 2 generations of my family who grew up here. I was fortunate enough to grow up and attend Braintree schools, to move on and attend college and law school, and then come back and serve in elected office for a number of years. I really enjoyed it. I've also, my kids went off to college. I had to pay for it, so I went to another town that paid me more than Braintree did, and that's how I financed their education. Well, I'm back now. I'm retired, and I want to come back to work for Braintree, and I think I'll be cheaper this time. So thank you very much.
And yeah, big round of applause for both candidates. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, for the next section, we're going to do Councilor for District 4, Anne Marie Quilty. So we just have one question that's going to be 2 minutes, and then just a 1-minute close at the end. So the question is, please take this opportunity to introduce yourself to the voters and share your goals to represent District 4.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Anne Mary Quilty, and I am running for District 4 Town Council here in Braintree. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for inviting me here, and thank you to all of you who came out tonight. I've lived here in Braintree for the last 21 years. I raised my daughter here. She went through the Braintree Public Schools. She's sitting here in the audience. I am a registered nurse. I have a bachelor's in science and nursing. I hold a law degree, a Juris Doctor. I am a school nurse. There are many ways my skills as an RN can transfer to the town council position. In nursing, we strive for excellence. Evidence-based practice is holistic quality care based on the most up-to-date research and knowledge. It's based on facts. Ethics. Nurses frequently make life and death decisions. Ethics are fundamental. Leadership skills. Nurses are frequently tapped for input on many issues, and many of the issues are not even nursing related. The qualities of a good nurse: communication, empathy, critical thinking and problem-solving skills, attention to detail, integrity and advocacy, willingness to learn, even-tempered, hardworking, flexible. Self-care is very important. I believe these qualities are all fundamental to the town council role, and I want you all to know that I will listen to you, I will advocate for you, and I will roll up my sleeves, and I will work hard for all of you.
And then a 1-minute closing statement. No pressure.
Well, what I'm hearing is that people here in Braintree, they want good schools for their children. The elderly people want to be able to live here. As far as traffic safety goes, there's a dangerous intersection at Commercial and Shaw Street, which needs to be looked at a little closer. And also, a lot of people in District 4 have some concerns about Penniman Park now being Penniman parking lot. So those are the things that I will be looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to transition to the next portion as well. Here, I'll hand it over to Jeannie.
Now I'd like to introduce Shayla Mompure, who is Esquire, and she's going to moderate for the mayor's candidate debate. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to now take the opportunity to invite Mayor Kokoris and candidate Joyce to the podiums. And while Jeannie's setting up, I'll just give a quick overview of all the rules that we've already discussed and talked about. Before we begin, I'll be asking a series of questions. I'll take some questions to, I'll ask each question to each candidate. Mayor Kokoris did win the coin toss and elected to go second. Therefore, candidate Joyce will be the first as far as the questioning goes. After that, we will rotate within questions, and each candidate, again, will have 2 minutes for each question. You don't need to take up the whole 2 minutes, but again, you'll be reminded if you go over that time frame. And after candidates are asked each question, you will have an opportunity for rebuttal, 30 seconds per rebuttal. Closings, you'll be allotted 1 minute. Candidate Joyce, first question. Every town and city faces challenges. What do you think is the biggest challenge for Braintree's future, and how will you address it?
Thank you. Thank you so much to the former League of Women's Voters for having us this evening, and to Town Hall facilities staff for setting up the room wonderfully, as always. And I just wanted to give a quick birthday shout out to Audrey, who is my campaign manager, and she's here tonight on her birthday. So. But I think absolutely the number one issue facing Braintree is long-term fiscal stability. And I think as long as we are unable to tackle the stability of our finances, we will not be able to make investments into schools, into increased town services, into more senior programming, into modern athletic fields for kids and for just residents who want to enjoy more modern facilities. So we need to get a handle on our finances so we can invest in the future that we're all hoping for.
Thank you. Mayor Kokoris, same question. If you'd like me to repeat the question, I'd be happy to do so.
Sure.
Every town and city faces challenges. What do you think is the biggest challenge for Braintree's future, and how will you address it?
Thank you, and thank you to League of Women Voters and Jean Giagrande for putting this on tonight. When I stood here before you 4 years ago, and you gave me the greatest honor of my life to become your mayor, one of the issues that I discussed was our schools. And our schools were in very difficult position. We needed to do work to our schools, and I think that that still remains one of our biggest challenges, is the physical buildings. Our schools were falling apart. So as mayor, when I came in, one of the first things I did was I decided to do a debt exclusion as I went to each school and looked at each school from the boiler room to the roof. And while doing so, I discovered that we needed to do roofs at our elementary schools. And when I put together a debt exclusion, that debt exclusion not only allowed us to build the first new school, South Middle School in Braintree, but also it allowed us to do 4 of the roofs. In addition to that, I've put together our facilities division. As you look at this beautiful auditorium, that's our facilities division that has been combined with the school facilities division, so we can take a building like we have here that's over 100 years old and make it look beautiful and make the improvements so that it's usable and it is a great place to be. So I think that is the challenge, and we will continue to address that challenge. We already have a number of items in place to do those repairs, and we are making great progress utilizing our facilities divisions, and within that debt exclusion, it allowed us to do so much more than we were able to do before. Thank you.
Candidate Joyce, would you like an opportunity for a rebuttal?
I would, yes, thank you. I just wanted to add, because I forgot to know how we would go about fixing the financial problems, but we did use $4.3 million in free cash to balance our operating budget, and we know we have a cumulative shortfall of almost $54 million in 2029, and we did have to use debt exclusion to invest in our schools. So again, we have to stabilize our budget, and professionally, I've worked on multi-million-dollar construction projects, from preliminary design to cost estimating to working into finding resources for funding and value engineering to meet your budgetary needs. So I'm well-versed on budgets and what we need to work on to stabilize the finances. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kokoris, would you like to also rebut?
Certainly. When I came into office, there definitely was some issues with budget and our ability to build this new school. That's why we did a debt exclusion. But I will tell you, COVID really created some significant challenges. We have worked through those challenges. We have created more revenue. We have created more free cash over the last 4 years because we have budgeted conservatively, and we are working to move Braintree forward.
Thank you. Mayor Kokoris, this next question, you'll have the first opportunity to address this next question, question 2. Increasing revenue is a problem for most municipalities. What short-term and long-term strategies would you initiate to address our lack of revenue in order to prevent using significant amount of revenue in free cash, also known as the rainy day fund, as we have this past year?
Thank you. Well, under economic development, we have worked very hard to create new economic development with recurring revenue. And some of the projects, Banner Park, which is has been approved and which is now going to be movie studios, will bring in a significant amount of recurring revenue, at least $800,000 to $1 million per year when built. As well, our first life science company that we were able to attract to Braintree on Wood Road, that particular company is going to bring additional revenue. Even with a tax incentive, we're looking at close to $350,000 per year when it's done. We also have another company next to that company at the old Ham and Egg site called First Electronics, which will also increase our revenue. We have the Allen Street project, which is going to bring revenue for the first time to a site that's been sitting vacant for 3 decades. And we have a number of other new restaurants that are coming in, which bring meals tax. We also have a number of other potential redevelopment sites throughout the town, Armstrong Cork, for example, and on the Ivy Street corridor. These are properties that we have been dealing directly with the owners of these properties, as well as Hudson Bay, which is the company that owns the lease over at South Shore Plaza where the Lord and Taylor site is. So we are actively pursuing redevelop in these commercial areas, which doesn't add children to the school system. It doesn't create a lot of the other stressors on the town, and brings in double the revenue than a residential property does. Thank you.
Candidate. Very lively and excited crowd. This is great. Candidate Joyce, same question. If you'd like me to repeat it, please let me know.
Please, thank you.
Increasing revenue is a problem for most municipalities. What short-term and long-term strategies, would you initiate to address our lack of revenue in order to prevent using a significant amount of revenue in free cash, also known as the rainy day fund, as we have with this year's past budget?
Thank you so much. We all know that Braintree is the gateway to the South Shore, with a strong and unique geographically advantaged location in Boston's regional powerhouse market. So why are we not thriving like neighbors? Why are we in this hole? Why don't we have new public school buildings, public buildings, and parks? It's because we've failed to make smart long-term planning decisions, leaving us in perpetual reactionary mode. We have no strategic plan. We don't have a plan on how to combat some of the zoning that the state is starting to implement, and it's starting to become developing on the terms that isn't Braintree's terms, and we're not out and ahead of that conversation. So I plan on creating, in the short term, an informed economic development team for Town Hall that will be dedicated to working with established Braintree businesses, broadening Braintree's network in a regional marketplace, and targeting projects that make sense for Braintree. We need to rely on economic experts, and we need to try as many different avenues as possible, because just life sciences or movie studios, both of which we see take an incredibly long amount of time and often do not come to fruition, we cannot rely on them. Integra is not planned to come online until 2025. It's been coming for years. Banner Park will likely face a similar timeline. We need to embrace the fact that we're a hardworking, blue-collar community. We have many manufacturing engineering jobs that we could expand on, healthcare workers. We have teachers, laborers, innovators outside of life sciences. We can do a lot with that, and we need to look at how to appeal to those new businesses and then help the businesses that are already in Braintree stay in Braintree, grow in Braintree, and be successful in Braintree. There's a lot that we can do and we can get out ahead of, but we have to get out of reactionary mode. We need to have a plan. The master plan was a great first step, but we need to move that forward aggressively, and we need to bring development that works for Braintree to Braintree. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Joyce. Mayor Kokoris, would you like an opportunity for rebuttal?
Yes, thank you. Well, the fact of the matter is that we have struggled through 2 years of COVID, which put us in a very difficult situation financially. But I have not heard anything from my opponent that is going to solve the problem in the short term, nor have I heard anything from my opponent that's going to solve the problem at all. So we are in the process, and we work every day to bring new business to Braintree, and we have been successful. Thank you.
Candidate Joyce, you also have an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Thank you. So I will say that, we are coming out of COVID, but we still have a COVID budget. We have a pandemic budget in non-pandemic times. And a lot of the money that we're talking about that has come into the town and is artificially inflating our financial success is from COVID. The money that the mayor is claiming to have in our free cash, the $11 million, which is projected or estimated for a fiscal year that ended this May, we got that through ARPA funds and monies that were provided during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3, Candidate Joyce, we will begin with you. What is your position on housing development so Braintree can meet the state's requirements for the MBTA Communities Act, which would make Braintree eligible to receive state funding?
Thank you. The MBTA Communities Act is the very thing that Braintree needs to be looking out for and needs to be ahead of. The state knows that cities and communities, towns like Braintree, they are financially struggling, which is why they're tying all of these funding sources to the creation of housing, because they know how they're going to try to leverage us. We have to get ahead of it. We cannot build too much housing that it exceeds the capacity for our town to pay for it, for our schools to absorb the increase in potential students, and for the drain on the potential infrastructure. MBTA communities is something that we should be talking about as a community. I have heard rumors of maps from the mayor's office that were supposed to be produced this spring. We haven't seen them yet. There is a significant impact And I think as a community, we have a lot of very real housing needs, both on an affordability level and in the type of housing that we want to live and build in. So I think, you know, there's a lot of communication and conversations that we need to be having around housing, and especially now that MBTA Communities is in the picture in a big way for us, that we're not able to have. And we're not able to have because we don't have the maps in front of us to talk about what it looks like. And we've been struggling as a community to talk about housing. And I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to be listening. I've been listening this entire campaign trail. There's so much housing need in our community. How are we going to produce the affordable housing for seniors and young families who want to be in Braintree? Thank you.
Mayor Kokoris, same question. I will repeat it, yes. What is your position on housing development so Braintree can meet the state's requirements for the MBTA Communities Act, which would make Braintree eligible to receive state grant funding?
Well, first, I'd just like to correct the previous speaker stating that the budget ends in May. It ends June 30th. The MBTA transit-oriented development has changed multiple times in the last 60 days. They came up with a mixed-use amendment to it. Initially, when it was created to have 15 units per acre per minimum in zoning within a half mile of the train station, transit, rapid transit. And then they decided to allow whatever, I don't even know the new name of the housing group from the state because they keep changing it. But they were the ones that created the rule, and the rule became 25% of 3,800 units. And that's what they're requiring us to zone for around our mass transit. I have been fighting for the residents of Braintree to not be overwhelmed with multifamily housing since the last time I ran. I stood against ZOM. And I will tell you that we will comply with the MBTA, but we are fighting right now. I am fighting the fight because they will not allow us to utilize the most significant parcel that is directly across the street from the train station. That parcel is excluded because it has restrictions on it. Those restrictions can be removed. And the only way someone's going to remove those restrictions and purchase that property is if we are allowed to zone for the MBTA zoning. So we are working for you, the citizens of Braintree, to make sure that they get this thing right and we don't rush it.
Candidate Joyce.
Thank you.
You have an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Thank you. Fighting for the residents against all housing is exactly where the mayor's office is at. We need to be having conversations about housing that isn't all in or all out, and it has to start with listening to the needs of housing from the residents and figuring out how that plays into and can be used in situations like MBTA communities. And I think we should be already talking about that. Whether the regulations are changing or the requirements are changing, we are not together as a community having meetings and talking about what this means. I believe the people want to listen, and we're able to be part of that conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Kokoris, if you also have an opportunity.
It's interesting because when we talk about affordable housing that you have stressed, I put an inclusionary zoning amendment before the planning board, which you chaired, and that had sat for, I think, over a year and did not have any movement. And it was an opportunity for the first time Braintree to create an ordinance that would have allowed affordable housing when multifamily units were built. And the planning board, which you chaired, failed to move that forward for some time, and it was a great opportunity to create more affordable housing.
Next question. Mayor Kokoris, what efforts would you take to encourage and support the development of elderly housing in Braintree?
Well, right now we have a feasibility study that we're waiting for someone to respond to. We put it out, this is our second time putting it out. We have $200,000 to look at 7490 Pond Street for senior, veterans, senior, and housing for disabled people. So that is one of the locations that is right across from Sunset Lake. It's beautiful, and it's an opportunity for our seniors to have affordable housing. We currently are working with Independence Manor to help them keep those units affordable by helping them with some capital improvements through our community preservation funds. So we are actively seeking and supporting elderly, senior, veteran type housing, as well as the fact that there's a potential 55-plus community that could be built over at St. Thomas More. It's been proposed. That's another great opportunity for seniors to move into housing, which allows them to free up the housing that they're in and get into a place that's more amenable for them. So we have been fighting since day one for this, and we will continue that fight when reelected.
Thank you. Candidate Joyce, what efforts would you take to encourage and support the development of elderly housing in Braintree?
Thank you. We know the need for senior housing in our community is great. There's need for market rate senior housing that's a smaller scale, one level living. We know there's an affordable aspect of senior living that's needed. And the challenge is going to be how do we get to these units? And especially how do we add affordability into that? And I'll use one project that just went through zoning recently and it changed. It was originally across from Braintree Lumber on Hancock Street. It was supposed to be a 55-plus development, and it just changed to a non-55 plus development because there are real challenges in the marketplace to build this housing, and especially to build it with any sort of level of affordability. And I think it's rumored that the St. Thomas More property will be an age-restricted 55 plus community, and I don't even know if it has any affordability component to it. So there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm not going to stand here and say we're going to do it and it's going to be easy and you're all going to have the housing to stay in Braintree in. It's going to be really hard, and building affordability into it is going to be using a lot of tools. It's going to be partnering with community builders. It's going to be having relationships with the state to find funding sources, to acquire tax credits, to doing strategic partnerships so that we can bring affordability to the developments that we're building. Any new development that has housing, we should always be looking at an aspect of affordability, and we do that. We negotiate it when developers come in and work on density. We negotiate affordability, and we need to be just very thoughtful about the housing we're able to build and what the market is impacting how we're able to do that. Thank you.
Mayor Kokoris, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Quite simply, I'll just say that I have a plan. 74 Pond Street, 90 Pond Street, that is a place that we want to build senior housing with veterans and disabled housing as well. That's our plan. We're not going to do studies. We're going to work forward. The feasibility study will tell us how many units we can put there, but that is in the plan, in the works, and we are going to make it happen.
Candidate Joyce, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you. I'll agree. I think Pond Street is a great location for affordable senior housing, veterans housing. It's walking distance to Sunset Lake, to the squares. I hope we don't stop at just housing. I think we look at what other services can we put. Seniors and anybody who's living in housing wants to be able to walk places, wants to be able to enjoy amenities. I think it's a great opportunity to also look at maybe expanding a senior service center or expanded council on aging services over there. Because I think what we're trying to build is the community that we want to live in inside Braintree. Thank you.
Candidate Joyce, keeping up with maintenance is difficult for all municipalities. What are your priorities with respect to infrastructure, such as buildings, both occupied and unoccupied, roads, etc., and how would you pay for these priorities?
Thank you. Thank you. Infrastructure is incredibly costly, and we are a community that was mostly built out 50 to 60 years ago, so a lot of our infrastructure is ready for replacement. And we don't have the funds, nor have we ever collected enough funds to pay for that replacement overnight. And what we're seeing is a lot of deferred maintenance. We're having roads that are unkept, and we're unable to keep up with any sort of regular paving schedule. So we need a plan. Historically, we've been putting out fires without any sort of long-term vision or plan for the buildings and the infrastructure. We've seen time and time again that we make investments into, say, a new school building roof or new windows in the Old South, and when the building's life cycle ends, we're stuck with a building that may have funds into it that we're not able to extract out, and now we're left with a building we have to do something with that maybe we can't afford long term. So it starts with a plan, and I hope to use resources in-house with the knowledge of building facilities and custodians to come up with a targeted plan, and use a third party if we need to help craft a list of priorities. We need a very realistic and targeted list of priorities. We cannot continue to keep spending 50% of our resources at 100% of the projects. It's not sustainable. We see it right now. There's no possible way to keep up. We know we already have deferred maintenance at East Middle School. It's very critical that we stay focused, even if it means we have to wait a little longer to accomplish some of the projects. Thank you.
Mayor Kokor, same question. What are your priorities with respect to infrastructure, such as buildings, both occupied and unoccupied, roads, etc., and how would you pay for these priorities?
Thank you. Well, first of all, we are doing a lot of things with our unoccupied buildings. I believe the only building we have left is 7490 Pond Street, which I've already told you what we plan on doing. The building next door, we received $7.6 million worth of grant money so that we can put a regional dispatcher center in. It's been sitting vacant for a couple decades. We also took the Allen Street property and successfully sold it so that it can be redeveloped, bringing in affordable housing and 56 units of development near the train station, as well as the fact that we've paved 15.26 miles of roadway in the last 4 years. We've done 12 miles of sidewalks. We've installed 4.26 miles of water main, sewer investigation. We've done a number of things utilizing the funds that we have. We received, through our hard work with our federal delegation, specifically Congressman Lynch, $3.1 million. We received $2.5 million from our state delegation to do Allen Street over. We have utilized funding as we do every year. And this program started before the mayoral form of government when I was a selectman. We started a roads and school borrowing program that I put into place after debt exclusion failed so that we could start repairing our schools and our roads. And that continued through our last administration, and we've continued that as well. So we have a plan. We have been utilizing funds to make sure that we take care of these infrastructure needs, and obviously the facilities division has been working on every one of our buildings. Thank you.
Candidate Joyce, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you. We've invested a lot, and we're still so far behind. We continue to put out fires without being able to get ahead of where we're at. The schools need a plan. We have 6 elementary schools that, yes, they got new roofs, but if you walk inside of the buildings, they're old, they're tired, and they impact the condition of the buildings impacts the students' learning. The same thing at the high school. It's very challenging to pay for this. I'm not here to tell you I'm going to be able to fix it overnight, but I am here to tell you that you will have the information available and we will work together to come up with a long-term plan and solution. Thank you.
Mayor Kokoris, same
Thank
for you, 30 seconds.
We cannot wait. We must fix our buildings now. This is a perfect example when you talk about the schools and you go into them. We replace the roofs because you have to start at the roofs. You can't have leaky roofs if you want to replace ceilings and other things. So if you look at this building, this is an example of over a 100-year-old building, and it's beautiful. And that's what our intention is with these schools. And we are doing a great job with our combined facilities division, and we're going to continue to make those improvements, and you will see the difference every year.
Next question. Mayor Kokoris, traffic is in the forefront in Braintree with the residents. There are major issues with the flow of traffic in Braintree. Also, we have had proposals for development on 4 recent occasions that the traffic and patterns of flow are of major concern. How would you be involved as the mayor to mitigate and help with the traffic situations in Braintree?
Thank you. Well, I'll tell you right now, a perfect example is we had terrible issues with the landing. Development that was approved for the landing could not handle the traffic. So we applied for a grant, which we got, and it was called the bottleneck grant. It wasn't a money grant, it was an actual grant where they came out and they put in new signal controls to make sure that they connected each intersection, 2 in Braintree, 2 in Weymouth, to have traffic flow through those intersections smoothly. They also put in indicators for when you pulled up to the light, it would actually turn green when there were no other cars around. So that was just one example. A lot of our roads are state roads. We're a cut-through town. So what we did was we established a traffic division to do enforcement, to make sure that we don't have people violating, going through red lights, et cetera. But we are looking at many different intersections and doing upgrades to the technology. And that's how I can help as mayor. And I utilize my engineering division to make sure that we apply for any grants that are available. We invest the money in those intersections to make sure that traffic moves through freely. If you look at Route 37, the technology that was placed on Route 37 in 2019, when they shut off the old system, there was lines of traffic. When they turned on the new system, it was able to create a system that works very efficiently, and we see a lot less delays. So each intersection has to be looked at, and we've been doing that, and we've improved many different intersections. And Elm Street is one that we're looking at next, that we're in the process of doing. So that's the way that I can help as mayor to make sure that traffic flows through our town and we don't have bottlenecks.
Candidate Joyce, same question. Traffic is in the forefront in Braintree with residents. There are major issues with the flow of traffic in Braintree. Also, we have had proposals for development on 4 recent occasions that the traffic and patterns of flow are of major concern. How would you be involved as mayor to mitigate and help with the traffic situations in Braintree?
Thank you. I think it's incredibly unique for a civil engineer who has familiarity and background in this sort of infrastructure management and how engineers work and sort of predicting traffic. I think a lot of times it doesn't mesh well with how the community experiences traffic, and I've seen that over my career. I think I bring a very unique perspective and experience to the table every time people are worried about traffic. And when we are looking at ways to do calming of street work to calm traffic, but it's funny, Braintree has many communities where traffic flows way too fast. And areas around town during rush hour where it flows very slow and gets very backed up. So I think as mayor, you have the ability to be in the conversations and to be able to have access to regional entities that are constantly working on regional traffic issues. You also have access to being able to go after more funding. There's a lot of money coming out of the federal and state governments for infrastructure improvements. So I think making sure that that money gets filtered into Braintree, and when it does, you have a targeted list of projects that you know are in need of for the community to have improvements to the traffic situation. And I think we should also look at traffic impact fees. You know, there are ways in which when new developments come in, you can add an impact fee, which is basically an extra contribution that a new project would bring in based on the amount of traffic impact that they have, whether it's more cars on the road or it changes, you know, the sort of level of functionality of adjacent intersections. So there's a lot of tools that the mayor can use, and I would absolutely be advocating for safer streets and better traffic situation in Braintree, because it's a real challenge here. We are a go-through town. We need to be a come-to town. Thank you.
Mayor, opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you. I'll say that an example, a bad example was Amazon, and that's an example of where Amazon, last mile, whatever they call themselves to do delivery, was approved over on Campanelli Drive. Terrible project to approve. Money was going to be taken to do traffic improvements. It would have devastated the area. Fortunately, they withdrew from that location. And as mayor, they came back and they wanted to go to 400 Wood Road, and I said, no way.
Candidate Joyce, opportunity for rebuttal.
Thank you. The Amazon distribution facility that was planned for Campanelli Drive was going to have a significant traffic impact, and at the time, they were talking about making a contribution of $1.5 million to improvements along the corridor, and would that have been enough to lessen their impact? I don't know, and I think not having a distribution facility like Amazon did help our traffic, but still in the neighborhoods, our neighbors use Amazon. Amazon cars are whipping up and down the streets. So Amazon is something that we're dealing with regionally, and I think it just ties into the bigger picture that we need to always be aware of the impact of new development and advocating for the safe streets in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Public safety is a real concern for residents. For example, the fire at Cleaners Harbor, the continuing problems with the compressor station, Sitco, and the potential Mass Water Resource Authority connection through Braintree to Weymouth. Other than robocalls, what additional tools would you implement to keep the public informed when emergencies or safety issues arise? Candidate Joyce, apologies.
Thank you. Braintree has a lot of areas around the town that have environmental concerns that are of a man-made perspective. And we saw during the Clean Harbors incident this last winter that we don't have everything in place that would be best protecting of the residents. And we did have uncertainty with whether or not the proper notifications were made when there was a chemical fire and residents were home in their beds sleeping with windows open or animals outside. I think it's a very real concern, and it's scary. People were very scared. And when they came to town hall to hear what happened, there weren't great answers. And I think that really shone a light on where we can do better. We can take ownership and responsibility to come up with a plan for safe procedures during incidents like that and make it aware for residents who live near these areas that do have risk to know that they're going to be protected and made aware of a situation as it unfolds. We had there's a lot that we can do and a lot of collaboration that happens, but it starts with a leader who says, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to solve this problem. I'm going to bring the right people together, and I'm going to give you continual updates until the plan is in place. I think we're still worried that if Clean Harbors happened again this evening or another event in the Fore River Basin, that we don't know if any procedures would be different. And I think that's worrisome. I'm certainly worried, and I want to be able to tell the residents and the residents be assured that we do have proper plans in place, and it's really the most impactful and most important thing we should be working on. Thank you.
Mayor, same question, and I can repeat if you'd like. Public safety is a real concern for residents. For example, the fire at Clean Harbors, the continuing problems with the compressor station, Citco, and the potential Mass Water Resource Authority connection through Braintree to Weymouth. Other than robocalls, what additional tools would you implement to keep the public informed when emergencies or safety issues arise?
Thank you. In the case of Clean Harbors, it was a very unique situation. I did go to the site, and I did drive along with the chief, and we took a look in the neighborhood. Regretfully, I should have made a call the next morning, and I owned up to that and certainly would have probably calmed the fears of many people. Although the robocall doesn't go to everyone, please sign up if you want it. But from that came, it was a learning process, and that learning process created some real solutions. And what we found was the hazmat teams that showed up immediately to the site also are part of the MEMA location. So we now have the ability not to just do a robocall, but to do an alert to every person within the range of where we feel that it's necessary. So it could be a 3-mile range, a 5-mile range, it could be the entire town. So we now, because of what happened, have learned that there is an asset out there that we will deploy. We've already talked to them, and they've already confirmed that if the fire chief makes that call, and once they do the confirmation, they'll put it out there, and it'll hit every cell phone in that vicinity. So we have a solution to that. Fortunately, as well, we've been working with Mass Maritime to come up with evacuation plans for the area. Hopefully, we never have to use them, but we have done so much since this incident. There's learning that takes place, and it's what you do with that information. It's how you react to it, and that's where we are today. We have solutions if there was ever another situation. And by the way, the fire department has had a detail there since that fire, and we will fight to keep that detail there as long as we need to.
Candidate Joyce, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Thank you very much. One of the other apparent issues during the Clean Harbors incident was just that awareness was made that the fire department and the town employees that deal with the emergency response, they could use more training. And I think there's opportunities for more training out there. So as mayor, I would be advocating for that training expertise to come into the town, to be able to find ways for emergency responders to be able to access that training. The last thing we want is someone who's supposed to be responding to this to feel like they could have had more information about the situation. And I think that was true the night of the Clean Harbors fire, and we have to get ahead of situations like that. Thank you.
With that being said, we do have the ability to have the training. We are just working with Clean Harbors to make sure that they pay for all of it. So we are going to have the training.
Thank you. Next question. Mayor Kokoris. As a mayor, you are a member of the school committee and control the allocations for the school budget. Braintree Public Schools enrollments has declined every academic year. What plans or ideas do you have to bring Braintree courses offerings in line with neighboring districts, address MCAS scores, behavioral health needs, and bring students back to Braintree classrooms?
Thank you. Well, I think COVID created a mass exodus of students that wanted to go all day, full day, and that option wasn't available. We fought hard to get the students back into school, and initially it was a hybrid model. So there was a lot of learning that was lost. And we have maintained lower class sizes in our elementary schools to give them the ability to get the education they need and have as much assistance as possible. So as far as the COVID situation, that's really the cause of the mass exodus of students from the school system. There might be some other reasons, but I do know that we did everything we could to keep them in school, to give them the best education we could, and we continue to do that. I don't think that we can tell parents where to send their children for education, and certainly a lot of people like private schools, whether it's because they're playing really good hockey somewhere else or whether it's because they want to go to a religious school. So the bottom line is we take the situation we have now and utilize those small class sizes to give our students the best education we can. And quite frankly, there is a struggle because they lost so much time in education, and not by fault really of anyone, because a worldwide pandemic hit us, which created this gap, and we are working towards closing that gap, and we will see the numbers come up. Our numbers are greater than other communities and surrounding areas, and we'll continue to perform that way.
Thank you. Candidate Joyce, same question. As a mayor, you are a member of the school committee and control allocations for the school budget. Braintree Public School enrollment has declined every academic year. What plans or ideas do you have to bring Braintree course offerings in line with neighboring districts, address MCAS scores, behavioral health needs, and bring students back to Braintree classrooms?
Thank you. While it's true that families make different decisions on where to send their children based on a whole variety of needs, we want Braintree Public Schools to be the best public schools. For a long time, Braintree Public Schools have been the best public schools. Families move to Braintree for the schools. We have such a strong reputation, and we're struggling. We're struggling on investment into bringing programs back that lost during COVID. We're struggling on being able to make the investments into our school buildings. We're going to be struggling very hard next year to afford the teacher contract that is coming up. We do not want to be a community where we're talking about cutting 30 teachers next year because we can't afford them. We need to be finding more revenue as a community, stabilizing our finances so that we can make the investments into our schools. So we make the investments into course offerings similar to other neighboring communities. There are communities, neighboring communities that have a whole slew of vocational or modern vocational programming at our high school that helps link students with their high school education to real workplace learning. We're also only one of 18 communities that still doesn't have full-day kindergarten. And every time it comes up, we say, well, how could we do that? Why aren't we saying, why can't we do that? The burden on young families in Massachusetts to raise children is astronomical. We cannot be putting this burden on young families at a time when everything else is so hard. Finding affordable housing, being able to afford the cost of a grocery store bill. We can do better, we should do better, and as mayor, I will be working very hard as a proud member of the school committee to do better for Braintree Public Schools. Thank you.
Mayor, 30 seconds.
Thank you.
30 seconds for rebuttal.
I'm not really sure where my opponent got the number of cutting 30 teachers, but if that's her platform, then that's her platform. I would say that we have the greatest teachers. We have the greatest school system here in Braintree that I attended, my children attended, and I am proud of the work that our teachers do, and I'm glad that we were able to settle the contract. Thank you.
Candidate Joyce, 30 seconds for rebuttal.
There is absolutely no way I would ever want to have to cut a teacher. There's no way I'd want to have to cut a police officer or a firefighter or a custodian. But the reality is we can't afford to make it work with the revenue situation that we have. And I think people need to be made aware of that before it's too late and we're all scratching our heads and wondering how we ended up in this situation.
Candidate Joyce, next question, and this is a resident question that we're moving on to. Internal and external communication is key to running an efficient government. Transparency with staff and residents has been an issue, especially with projects and emergency situations. People in general want to be aware of what is going on around town. How would you propose to keep everyone informed?
Thank you. Access to town hall, being able to reach out to the mayor's office and get a timely response for anybody who's reaching out to the mayor's office has to be a huge priority. We need to make access to town hall events, to planning meetings, to community events. There needs to be a local, easily accessible place to get that, whether that's on the town's website, whether that's a newsletter that's published by the town, whether that's updates to a social media account like Instagram or Facebook. We have to do better. As someone who has been volunteering around town hall for almost a decade, I have a hard time figuring out when meetings are. I have a hard time finding minutes. Minutes aren't kept up to date. It's incredibly hard, even if you're trying to keep tabs on a project or a specific topic, to not miss anything. And we need to make that easier. Town hall has to be more accessible and welcoming, and there's so much talent in this room tonight, and we need to see your faces in town hall all the time, bringing ideas, feeling like you can have access to the mayor's office or any other rooms in town hall. Because town hall is here to work for you, and if we're not able to communicate what we're doing, we're not doing our job. So it's incredibly important to have access and transparency, and it has to be very easily accessible, and I think we can do that a lot better, whether it's through a revised website, in the interim, if it's through a newsletter. We are going to work on making town hall accessible to you more so than it is today. Thank you.
Mayor, same question. Internal and external communication is key to running an efficient government. Transparency with staff and residents has been an issue, especially with projects and emergency situations. People in general want to be aware of what is going on around town. How would you propose to keep everyone informed?
Well, thank you. When I ran 4 years ago, we talked about increasing our ability to communicate with the residents. And then COVID hit, so we immediately utilized the robocall, we utilized text messages, we utilized email alerts to get information out to our residents. As far as meetings are concerned, everything is posted on our website. We always can do better. We always can do better, and we will do better. But all of the information in regards to any project that is going on is on our website and available for folks to see at any given time. I also like to commend our district councilors that work so hard to make sure that everyone in their district knows what's going on from their perspective, and they fight very hard for their district, and I appreciate that. When I was a district councilor, I did the same thing. So I think that there's always room for improvement, but there's many different ways of communicating, and we need to stay up with the times. We've, increased our Facebook presence. We've increased our text messages, our emails, but there's always room for improvement, and we certainly can do a better job. And if someone from the audience is asking that question, yes, we will work harder to make sure that information is out there, and we'll make sure it's done in a way that it reaches as many people as possible.
Candidate Joyce, 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Thank you. I'm going to show up randomly at meetings around town. I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be accessible to the public. You can come into the mayor's office and meet with me. I'm going to have dedicated communication staff that their job is going to be get in touch with the mayor. If you can't get in touch with me directly, you're going to be able to work with staff to get in touch with me. And I'm going to be present and listening. And I think we can do better with communication out of town hall, and we can do better with communication directly with the mayor's office. Everybody can, and I will make that a top priority. Thank you.
Mayor, same for you, 30
Thank
seconds.
You. In regards to the mayor's office, my office, we have a great staff that field all kinds of different calls from residents, whether it's, asking information or needing something, trash pickup, whatever it may be, and we respond. And sometimes a call comes to me and I have a list of people that I call back on a regular basis. So our office is equipped with excellent people that know how to do their job, and we are always available for any resident in this town. Thank you.
We've reached the end of our questions for this evening, and with that, we'll begin with closing remarks. You each have a 1 minute as allotted time. Candidate Joyce, you'll begin.
Thank you. Over the past few months, I've spoken to thousands of Braintree residents to hear their concerns and hopes for our town. I've listened and enjoyed the passion we share as a community to create the best possible version of Braintree. And as your next mayor, I'm excited to bring that vision to life if offered the opportunity. The last 4 years have been riddled with fiscal instability, roller coaster financials, which we have actually outlined this evening, a bond rating that has not actually gone up. It started out as AA+, went down to AA negative, and now is AA stable. The $11 million in free cash reserves, that's projection estimated. We have very real challenges looking at building permit fees up to $170, but in 2019 they were $342. We have to paint a clear picture for people, and the current administration is not painting the whole picture. I will bring fiscal responsibility and proactive leadership to Braintree. I will end the insider-only culture at Town Hall and give all residents a town voice. And I will create a 5-year and 10-year strategic plan for capital improvements and financial goals, and I will share them with you. Thank you.
Mayor, 1 minute for closing.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and Jean Giagrande for hosting tonight's debate. I believe I am the best candidate to keep Braintree moving forward. Just a few months into my term as mayor, the world was thrown into chaos by the pandemic. Despite the obstacles and hardships it presented, together we overcame these challenges, and together we made significant progress to keep Braintree moving forward. We have made historic accomplishments in the past 4 years and have more to come. I stand here tonight respectfully asking for your vote on November 7th. And in return, I give you my word that we will finish what we've started and continue to make Braintree better together. As you consider your choice on November 7th, I want to highlight the significant differences between myself and my opponent. A vote for me is a vote for experience and proven leadership, someone who has weathered the unpredictable and work tirelessly to lead Braintree forward. Thank you.
I'd like to give a round of applause for all the candidates that were here tonight and our moderators. I want to thank you all for coming. I do want to say voting is November 7th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday, October 27th. By 5 p.m. is the last date to register to vote. And mail-in ballots must be received by 8 p.m. at Braintree Town Hall. Deadline for absentee voting is by noon, November 6th. And any other questions, please go to braintreema.gov Town Clerk Voters Information. There is no in-person voting for this fall town election. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to all the volunteers.